The spreadsheet is open on your laptop and you have color-coded it, which should have been the first warning. Green for paid, yellow for deposit down, red for not yet, and there is so much red, a whole column of red glowing back at you at 11 at night while Danny sleeps in the next room, and you tell yourself you'll close the tab in 5 minutes. You've been telling yourself that for 40. You are 29 years old, you make $61,000 a year as a project coordinator at a logistics company in Columbus, and 3 months ago you got down on one knee on the pedestrian bridge downtown because Danny loves that bridge, and she said yes before you finished the sentence, and it was the best moment of your life. You still believe that, hold on to that, because you're going to need it. Here is the number nobody says out loud. The average American wedding in 2026 runs a little over $34,000. You heard that figure early and you laughed at it, actually laughed, out loud in the car. 34 grand for one day. Who are these people? You and Danny are not those people. You have a plan. You have a spreadsheet, and it's color-coded, and you have a budget of $20,000, which is what you've saved together over 4 years of skipped vacations and split entrees and one very stupid argument about whether you could afford the good olive oil. 20,000, reasonable, adult. You are going to do this the smart way. You do not do this the smart way. Danny is a dental hygienist. She's kind in a way that embarrasses you sometimes. The way she overtips, the way she remembers the names of everyone's dogs. She grew up with 3 older sisters, and she went to 3 weddings before she turned 20, and she has, whether she'll admit it or not, a picture in her head. The picture has string lights in it. The picture has a barn that isn't really a barn, the kind that costs more than a real barn ever would. You don't know about the picture yet. You'll learn about it one venue at a time. The venue is where it starts. You tour 4. The first is a banquet hall with carpet the color of a headache and a coordinator who calls you hun and quotes you $4,000, and you can tell Danny's face has already left the building. The 4th one has the string lights. It has a view of a pond that they will describe, without irony, as the water feature. It has a woman named Brenda who walks you through the space at golden hour, on purpose, because Brenda has done this 10,000 times and knows exactly what golden hour does to people who are in love. The venue is $8,600. Danny doesn't say anything. She just slips her hand into yours and squeezes once, and you feel it travel all the way up your arm and into the part of your brain that handles money, and it shorts something out. You say yes to Brenda. Of course you say yes to Brenda. That night you open the spreadsheet and you retype the venue cell 3 times because the number keeps looking wrong. $8,600 is 43% of your entire budget. On the room. Not the food, not the photos, not the person who will play music while your grandmother tries to dance. The room. You tell yourself the rest will be cheaper to compensate. This is the exact thought that arrives right before the rest is not cheaper. Catering comes for you next. Here's a thing no one warns you about. Caterers don't quote you a total, they quote you a per head, and per head is a magic trick. $90 a person sounds like a nice dinner out. Then you count the people. Your mom's list alone has 31 names, and you recognize maybe 9 of them. The final guest count lands at 76, and 76 times 90 is 6,800 and change, and that's before the 22% service fee that appears at the bottom of the invoice like a stranger who followed you home. $6,900 for chicken or fish, and a pasta option for Danny's cousin who doesn't do animal proteins. You are now 2 line items in, and you have spent $15,500 of a $20,000 budget. You know this. You can see it. The spreadsheet is right there doing its job, which is to tell you the truth in green and yellow and a rising tide of red. And here's the part you'll turn over in your head for years afterward. You kept going anyway. Not because you're stupid, because every single cut felt like a cut against Danny, against the picture, against the one day. That's the trap, and it's a good one, because it disguises a financial decision as a love test. Cheaper flowers means you love her less. That's a lie. It'll take you a long time to know it's a lie. The photographer is $3,500. You almost push back on this one, you really do, and then you look at your parents' wedding album, the one with maybe 40 photos in it, faded orange, your dad with a mustache, and you think, this is the only thing that survives. The cake gets eaten, the flowers die by Monday, the photos are the day, forever. So you book Renata, who has a wait list and a style she calls editorial candid, which as far as you can tell means she'll make you look slightly sadder and more expensive than you are. $3,500. The flowers are $2,800. You want to fight about this number and you can't, because you made the mistake of letting Danny fall in love with peonies, and peonies are out of season in the month you picked, which means they get flown in from somewhere, which means each stem costs roughly what you'd tip a decent waiter. The florist says the word installation, and you don't know what it means, but it costs $600 on its own. A DJ is $1,800, a dress is $2,000, and Danny paid for that herself, out of her own account, and did not tell you the number for 2 weeks. And when she finally did, she said it fast and looked at the floor, and you understood that she'd had her own version of the spreadsheet all along. long, her own 11 p.m. tab she couldn't close. You add it up on a Tuesday. You already know. You've known for a while, the way you know a tooth is going to need a root canal before the dentist says it. The total is $36,000, $16,000 over what you saved. Your parents offer $8,000. This is enormous and generous, and your mother cries when she offers it, and you feel like the worst person alive taking it, because you know she's dipping into the account she calls the roof account, the one for when the roof finally goes. You take it anyway. You tell yourself you'll pay it back. Some things you say to make the taking survivable. That leaves $8,000, and $8,000 goes onto a credit card. Let's sit inside that number, because this is the one the whole story turns on, and everyone speeds past it. You put $8,000 on a Chase card at 22% APR, which in 2026 is not even a bad rate. The average is right around there, 22%. If you pay the minimum, which is what you will do, because you're about to be married, and the water heater is about to make a noise, and life is about to start charging admission, if you pay the minimum, that $8,000 takes you roughly 4 years to clear, and costs you about $4,200 in interest. Round it. Call it $4,000 of pure interest, paid to a bank, for a party that ended on a Saturday night. Your $36,000 wedding is actually a $40,000 wedding. You just won't get the invoice for it until it arrives $48 at a time, every month, for the next 4 years, in an email with a subject line that says, "Your statement is ready." Then there's Priya. Priya sat 2 desks over from you at your last job, and she got engaged the same spring you did. You found out from a group text, a ring emoji, and a photo of a hand. You went to lunch to celebrate, and somewhere between the chips and the check, she said the thing you've never been able to unhear. She said her and Ben were doing it at the Courthouse, $45. Then a dinner for both families at a restaurant with a private room, maybe $2,000 all in. And then, she said this part like it was obvious, they were taking the wedding money and doing a down payment on a 2-bedroom. You remember laughing, a little. You remember thinking it was sad, honestly. No dress, no dance, no bridge. You remember feeling for one ugly second like you'd won something. Hold on to Priya. She comes back. The wedding itself is beautiful. This is the part people don't expect you to say, but it's true, and refusing to say it would be its own kind of lie. Golden hour hits the water feature exactly the way Brenda promised. Your grandmother dances. Danny's dad gives a toast that wrecks the entire room. There is a moment during the first dance when Danny looks up at you, and the string lights blur behind her, and you would, in that specific second, have paid $100,000 for it and called it a bargain. You need to know that this was real. The day was not a scam. The day was gorgeous. The problem was never the day. The problem is the Tuesday 3 weeks after you get back from the honeymoon. You've been married 19 days. It's a Tuesday, you're both tired, and Danny orders DoorDash. Thai, from the place you both like, $41 including the fees that DoorDash stacks on like the caterer did, like everyone does. And you say something. You don't even plan to say it. It just comes out low on the way to the fridge. Something like, "We said we weren't going to do this right now." And Danny turns around, and there's a look on her face you've never seen in 4 years. And she says, "Do this." "Do what?" "Eat." And you're off. It is not about the $41. You both know it's not about the $41 while you're doing it, which somehow makes it worse. It's about the $4,000 of interest neither of you has said out loud. It's about the roof account. It's about the fact that you started this marriage, this thing that was supposed to be the beginning, already $48 in the hole every month to a bank in Delaware. You say a number out loud for the first time in the fight, the real number, the 40,000, and Danny goes quiet, and then she says the thing that ends it. She says, "I would have married you at the Courthouse. You know that, right? I said yes on a bridge. I didn't need the barn." And you stand there in the kitchen with the Thai food going cold in the bag, and you understand that she means it, and that she meant it the whole time, and that the picture in her head was never a demand. It was just a picture. You were the one who turned it into a mortgage on your first year together. You did this. Not for her. For the version of yourself that was afraid a small wedding meant a small love. Here's what the fight cost that the Spreadsheet never had a sell for. For about a month afterward, DoorDash becomes a thing you can't do without both of you flinching. A dumb app, a Thai place you used to love. Danny stops suggesting it. You notice she stops suggesting it, and you don't say anything, and that silence is the first thing the wedding took that you can't buy back. Not the money, the ease. The way ordering dinner used to be nothing. It's a small thing. It is such a small thing. That's exactly why it doesn't heal clean. You see Priya about 8 months later, at a barbecue. She and Ben closed on the 2-bedroom in the fall. She's not smug about it. That's the thing. She never once made you feel it, which is somehow harder. But she also mentions quietly that the house needs a new furnace and they're stressed about it, that the down payment ate everything, that some nights Ben works late and the place feels too big and too empty, and she wonders if they skip something they can't get back. There was no first dance. There's no album. Her mother is still a little wounded about the Courthouse. So don't do the thing your brain wants to do, which is decide Priya won and you lost. She didn't win. She made a different trade, and her trade has its own hole in it, a furnace-shaped one, a where was my day one. Nobody in this story gets to be right, that's what makes it true. But here is the math you can't put down, the one that follows you into the shower and the commute and the space right before sleep, the one that recontextualizes every green cell in that spreadsheet. Suppose you'd done the small wedding, not the courthouse. You didn't want the courthouse, and that's allowed. Say $5,000, a restaurant, a real dinner, 40 people who actually know your names, a good bottle of wine, and someone's cousin with a decent camera. $5 grand. That leaves you with $31,000 that didn't get spent. The 20 you saved minus 5, plus the 8 you'd never have borrowed, plus the 4 in interest you'd never have paid. Call it $29,000, invested once, in a plain index fund, and never touched. The S&P 500 has averaged around 10% a year over the long haul. Discount it. Be conservative. Say 7% after inflation. $29,000, left alone for 20 years at 7%, becomes about $112,000. At the historical 10, it's closer to $195. Push it a hair, add nothing more to it ever, and you're standing in the neighborhood of $200,000. From one decision, from choosing a dinner over a barn. $200,000 is a down payment on Priya's house, and the furnace, and a nursery. $200,000 is the roof account, filled to the brim, so your mother never lies awake listening to the ceiling. $200,000 is the difference between a marriage that starts at zero and a marriage that starts $48 a month underwater. Treading. Both people so tired from treading that a $41 dinner can start a war. You didn't buy a wedding. You bought a party and sold a future, and the exchange rate was terrible, and nobody at the venue tour was ever going to tell you the exchange rate, because Brenda doesn't get paid in 20-year compound returns. Brenda gets paid in golden hour. The card is paid off now. It took the 4 years the math said it would. You made the last payment on a random Wednesday, and you expected to feel something, and you didn't, really. Just a small, quiet click, like a door you didn't know was open finally shutting. Danny's pregnant. She told you last month, in the kitchen, the same kitchen, and you both cried, and then you both, without saying anything, looked at the exact spot on the floor where the Thai food went cold 4 years ago, and she laughed first. She always laughs first, and it broke whatever was left of that old silence. You order the Thai that night. You get the good one, the $41 one, and it tastes like being 29 again before you knew what you were about to do. Somewhere in a drawer there's a flash drive with 1,100 editorial candid photographs on it. You haven't opened it in over a year. You keep meaning to print one, just one, the one where the lights blur behind her, but the printing costs money and there's a crib to buy, so it stays in the drawer, this document of the most expensive day of your life, this thing you were told would survive everything, going quietly obsolete on a piece of plastic you can't quite bring yourself to throw away and can't quite bring yourself to open. The baby comes in March. She has Danny's laugh already, everyone says, though you don't know how they can tell yet. You'll stand over the crib at 3 in the morning, holding her, doing the thing every parent does, the running total thing, the college and the daycare and the someday she'll want a wedding too thing, and you'll make yourself a promise in the dark, the kind you're not sure you can keep. You'll tell her the number, when she's old enough. You'll tell her the real one, all of it, the venue and the interest and the 20 years, and you'll let her decide for herself. And you'll wonder, rocking her, whether you'd have listened, at 29, if someone had told you.